A very good evening to one and all. I'm Riddhi, Assistant Professor at the Department of Communicative English, Ashutosh College. On behalf of my department and the Internal Quality Assurance Cell at Ashutosh College, I heartily welcome you all to Communicatio Lumus, our series of national webinars celebrating the power of language and communication. I'm delighted to welcome you to the third webinar of our series today, titled Communication for the Tech Geek, Decoding Technical Communication. Technical communication has emerged as a prospective career opportunity for tech geeks who can ace the art of using language effectively for communication. Our today's speaker, Soumya Togachetti, a seasoned professional with years of experience in technical communication, is here to talk to you about the opportunities and prospects in this area. Before we proceed, I request the organizing secretary Shuruma to please introduce the speaker in a few words. Over to you, Shuruma.
Am I audible?
Yes.
Thank you, Riddhi. Good evening, everyone. I am Shuroma, Assistant Professor at the Department of Communicative English, Ashutosh College. Today, we are privileged to have with us Soumya Togarchetti, Pre-Sales Consultant at Tata Consultancy Services. With a bachelor's degree in computer science, Soumya Togarchetti started her career with Wipro Technologies, where she worked in the area of Windows driver development. However, she soon decided to follow her passion in technical communication practice. After a successful career of over a decade in technical communication with Wipro, Broadridge, and TCS, where she focused on end-to-end software development lifecycle documentation, thought leadership articles, marketing collateral, and press releases, she completed an executive program in leadership and management at IIM Kolkata. As part of the pre-sales team in the technology business unit of TCS, she works in the areas of pre-sales and sales enablement. She primarily focuses on business development and customer relationship management. She also holds patents in retail and mobility domain. On behalf of our department, I would like to thank you so much, ma'am, for being with us here today. And we can't wait to listen to you. Over to you, ma'am.
All right. Am I audible, guys? Riddhi Shuroma.
Yes.
Is my video on?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Riddhi. Thank you, Shuroma. You've taken me down the memory lane of all my industrial experience. Also, please don't call me ma'am. You're only reminding me how older I'm getting with time. So, good evening, everyone. Welcome to this session on decoding technical communication. Uh, See, the objective of this session is not teach you technical communication in 40-50 minutes, the next 40-50 minutes. It is only to present you the realm of opportunities that this field has. Okay, someone is saying, raise your voice, ma'am. I am louder, you will be able to hear. So I'm only trying to present you the realm of opportunities this industry presents you as and when you enter it. So with that objective, I'll start sharing the content. It will be easy for you. Yeah. Is my screen visible, Riddhi?
Yes, it is
Yeah.
visible.
Thank you. Thank you. So in the next 40-50 minutes, let's see what technical communication is all about. And if I'm able to fascinate you by that time, then let me see. I'll also show you what are the options or the help that is available for you to pursue this as a career. So that is going to be the objective of this session. So before we begin, I have few disclaimers as a speaker. Please give me your undivided attention for the next 40-50 minutes. I see most of you have joined from your mobiles, so please do not bother taking screenshot of the slides because we are going to share this presentation with you at the end of the session. The organizers are going to share it with you. and we might not be able to answer all the questions. Please shoot them in the Q&A or the chat window.
Minor changes in study.
Please go on mute.
But however, he is taking care of this as well and
Riddhi, can you please mute everyone?
Yeah, Soumya, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So this presentation will be shared with you at the end of the session. Shoot your Q&As either in the chat tab or the Q&A tab, wherever it is possible. We'll try to answer as much as we can, and whatever we are not answering, we'll try to consolidate it in a document and share the responses with you in a day or two. I might not promise to share that Q&A with you by tonight. However, yeah. And please do not play around with the WebEx options, requesting to annotate or share your screen or share the whiteboard. It's kind of getting disturbing for me here. So please keep also the last thing, keep your social media aside for the next till the end of the session. We need your undivided attention. So with that, I'll start. I'll just take off my video. How do I take off my video? Just a second, guys. Yeah, okay. So we're back. So today, as I said, this is the agenda slide. What we'll be talking about is all about technical communication, the writing process, how do you actually start writing, and what is the role played by tools or technology in the entire technical communication space. What are the online forums that you can look at if you want further guidance, and in case you want to enter this field, so what is the career option that you have ahead, followed by the Q&A. I am speaking to the loudest possible. Somebody is asking me to speak louder. I'm sorry, I cannot speak any more louder. I think my whole lane is trying to listen to my session without logging in. Jokes apart. Okay. With this, I'll start the session. See, the next two slides, you might not be able to really make sense immediately, but we'll try to draw conclusions in the next couple of minutes. And whenever I'm asking you a question, please use the comment window to write your response. I might probably pick up the first one or two responses, not more, and try to discuss, and then we'll further move on. Okay. So this is an interesting designation that I have come across in one of the resumes that I have seen, of course, on the internet. So someone writes, I'm a chief operating officer, accelerated human movement. What do you think could this be? Take 10 seconds and ping. Please don't raise a hand. Nobody is going to unmute you. Please start writing. I can only see comments. No one's taking a shot at it? HR, no. Subhalakshmi says HR, no, that's not the right answer. Anyone else? 5 more seconds. That's okay. So it's about a lift operator. Okay, this is one of the ways you represent the job description of a lift operator. Park in your thoughts here. Let's move on to the next slide. So someone who is not so well versed with the cricket fielding positions comes to you and asks, can you please explain me what slip is or what a mid-on is? So how do you explain? Explain slip, position slip for me on the field. Anyone taking a shot at it? I'm still reading the comments. Beside the wicket keeper. Okay. So if someone is asking you to explain the fielding positions, are you going to write first and second person to batsman beside keeper? Okay. All of you are technically correct. I would say let's do this. a picture is worth 1,000 words. Correct? So I cannot say diagonally behind the batsman, or how do you explain your offside, your leg side? You can't explain all that with your language. So now in these two slides, what are we trying to conclude? We're trying to conclude that there are various forms of communication. At times you might have to use elevated language. At times you might have to use illustrations. At times you might have to use simple English to convey whatever the information is. So there are lots of forms of communication that you come across as and when you proceed in your life. In the same lines, on the same lines, what you see is technical communication. So that is where we are trying to come at. Now, the three definitions that you see on the slide are actually textbook definitions. While I'm not going to read all these definitions, by virtue of having certain gray hair because of the industry pressure I have taken, if you ask me, Soumya, how would you define technical communication? I would say in simple language. Technical communication is conveying complex information in simple language. It's as simple as that. So there is a complex technology or a complex technical piece of information or a complex report full of numbers that is in front of you. You understand that, you digest that. When I say you all through this session, please understand that I'm referring to a technical communicator or a technical writer. Okay. So you understand all that, digest all that information and present it in the most simplest form possible to the end user. Now, how simple is this simple? Is it really that simple? Is technical communication really that simple? My answer would be no, a definite no. See, this picture, I'm sure all of you must have seen a zillion times. It's the iceberg. So what you see is just tip of the iceberg. You know, also people also say it's just the tip of the iceberg. So what is underneath? This is what is underneath. It's a very, very complex structure. Okay, so the entire session that we are going to have today is going to focus on this. How do you understand the complex part of the iceberg, and how do you make it simple so that the output that you deliver is user friendly, it is appealing, as well as it is seamless to the end user. I request everyone to please go on mute. Riddhi, please mute all the participants and just unmute me. So various forms of technical communication, as I was saying, various forms of communication rather. You have creative writing, you have poetry, prose, the way you write your educational, your textbooks, your marketing content, your journals, journalism. So these are all different kinds of communication that you have, different types of writing that you have. Well, in the industry that I come from, technical communication is more or less synonymous with technical writing. Well, it is not really that. Technical communication encompasses a lot of other stuff. However, in the IT industry, if you see, it is guys, I'm sorry, I'm repeating this time and again. I really want everyone to be on mute. I can't focus on the slides if I'm having background noise. Thank you.
If you unmute
So
yourself constantly, we have to expel you. Okay? If you unmute yourself, I'll be compelled to expel you, please.
So technical communication is a larger subject that encompasses what the following items that you see on the screen. Well, for the next couple of minutes, let's see what each of this is all about. The first one being information design. Information design, true to its name, it's all about how do you make your entire, how do you present the information in a way that is easily accessible and easily understood by the users. Okay, you deal closely with graphics in this, graphics and illustrations. When I say illustrations and graphics, it's just not limited to information design, folks. Try to understand that whenever we are trying to use illustrations and graphics, what is important is not just aesthetics. What is important is how easy are you making the life of your end user. Let me take an example here. Let's say you're trying to plot a graph of your grades. So semester 1, this was my score. Semester 2, this was my score, and XYZ. So for this, you can choose a bar graph or a trend line that will give you how your performance has been over the semesters. Now, do you think you can represent this information using a pie chart? So that's a wrong infographic that you're choosing. So information design is not just about the color, it's not just about the aesthetics, it is also about how easy is the end user understanding what you're trying to convey. Next comes technical writing. Technical writing is out and out related to technology, engineering kind of a space. So documentation that you see when you press F1 on any of the Windows application or your browsers or anything, just press F1, a document pops up. So that's technical writing. It's documentation about software, processes, applications, products, user manual. So it's a whole gamut of documentation deliverables that you write. It's called, that is the field of technical writing. You see this field typically in software, computer networks, engineering, chemistry, aeronautics, medical. So all these things come under technical writing. Now the third one is technical editing. Technical editing is restricted to editing what is already written. That's your language. You edit in terms of language, edit in terms of articulation and coherence, and the overall conveying of the information. While this editing, no, you cannot edit as per your whims and fancies, even though you are good at language. The editing is governed by a set of guidelines, a set of processes. There are some best practices, do's and don'ts. So all these are called, put together in a single document. It's called a style guide. Hold on for the style guide. It's being covered in the next couple of slides. And the next field is instructional design. A very, very, very interesting field, I must say. ID. It's called ID. So instructional design is about designing, developing, and delivering content, basically learning content. So imagine that you're doing a web-based tutorial, WBT, on Coursera or Udemy, or something, a random WBT on fire safety. Everything is made so conversational. So you have a story that runs from the beginning till the end. So a fire officer comes, talks to you, class A, this is the fire, class B, fire is used for this. So there is a story that happens. So ID instructional designers, they actually create the story. They know the essence of the WBT, they know the content, so they create a story, they design it, and they deliver it in the most suitable fashion. So that is instructional design. Next comes user experience design. UI UX, user interface / user experience design, is the most picking up field, I must say. So what is this UX design is all about? It is related to products. Now, it is about product integration, product branding, product design, usability, functioning. So if I'm trying to sell a mouse to you, a computer mouse to you, so I will have a UX designer in my team who would tell me how the mouse should be designed so that the right and the left clicks are are very easy for the user, and the size of the mouse should fit the palm, and how and in under what circumstances will the user use this mouse. So these are the thoughts, typically these are the thoughts that the designer will think and will design the product. So please do not confuse it with the physical design. The user experience design is more of it's the soft copy and not the hard copy. So the soft copy gets translated to the hard product, or the product that is in your physical product that is in your hand. Next comes the document design. There is no field per se called document design. You don't have document designers in the market. It's a part of technical writing. It's a part of technical communication. So document design is nothing but structuring your content, using the right templates, choosing the right structure, and flow of thought in your document. So we will not stress upon much on that. Next comes your training design. It could be as easy as writing your educational WBTs, or educational content, basically nothing to do with the visuals. So for example, I'm releasing a WBT on technical communication, let's suppose. So I will have 3 levels: a beginner, a moderate, and an advanced. or a practitioner and an expert. There are multiple levels. So what goes into this is I understand the users. I understand the users. I will have to choose the depth of my information according to the let's say intellect levels of the end user. So for a beginner, I might have to start from the scratch. For moderate, I might have to start from level 5. So these are the thoughts that run behind the training design, a training designer. The last but not the least is marketing. I'll put it in one simple terminology. Any deliverable, any information piece that will help you generate more sales. Could be your brochures, flyers, slides, one page of slides, or anything, a press release, anything that is saleable, as the saleable material for a product or a service or a software or anything. That's marketing collateral for you. I quickly saw a question difference between instructional design and user experience design. User experience is more about products. As I said, understand the, or rather imagine the example of a mouse that is I've just taken. So user experience design is about products. Instructional design is learning content. So you remember, I don't know your age group. I'm assuming you're all millennials. You must be, you must have read comics such as Tinkle or Archie's or Richie Rich or something like that. So you see a kind of dialogue, a story that is built in those comics. So in the same way, using the same base, a conversational tone is adopted to convey the message. That's instructional design. Okay, so these are the types of technical communication that you have. As I said, the IT industry, the corporate, actually there's a very thin blurring line between technical communication and a technical writer. Okay, so I'm getting a lot of other follow-up questions. Riddhi, Shurama, please note those questions. We'll take it at the end. We'll move on. Now we've seen what technical communication is. Now go back to your iceberg explanation. We are looking at the bottom of the iceberg. We are trying to strengthen the bottom of the iceberg so that the tip looks shiny. So for that, it's not easy, as I said. So there are certain principles that you need to follow while you are designing your content. Language, I am not touching upon because I am assuming, I'm coming from an assumption that you guys have exceptional language skills. So we are not getting into grammar, subject verb agreement, singular, plural, nothing of that comes here. With that exceptional knowledge, I'm trying to build upon what technical communication skills are all about, how technical communication is done. So I'm jotting down the most important guidelines or the characteristics of technical communication. So there are 3 buckets, as you see: use, ensure, and watch out for. Let's look at use. Always use simple language, plain English. You cannot write an error message such as, oh, the user, please do not be flabbergasted. That's a very fancy vocabulary, but that's not how people are going to understand. You will have to use very simple terminology. Okay, in order to, generally, actually, all this have to be dropped. Next, clear sentences, short and clear. A sentence should not be longer than 1 line, at the max 1.5 lines. Human brain cannot process more than 8 to 10 words at a time. If you see the way I am also delivering the content, I'm giving you logical pauses. In the same way, when a user is reading a document, he or she will not be able to read long sentences. It will be a put off. The first line itself will be a put off, and the person is not going to touch your documentation again. Take it in writing from me. That's going to happen. Clear sentences, non-ambiguous, correct language, short and crisp. That's how you have to structure your sentences. Next comes coherent paragraphs. Now I'll try to give you an example. Let's say you're logging into your Gmail. You have the login page where there is a username password field. There are 2 fields, username and password. And then there is a forgot password link. There is a login button. Somebody is asking you to document this particular page, is asking you to explain this in plain English for them. So when you have to write 3 paragraphs. So how do you write? Will you say how to log off from Gmail first and then say how to log into Gmail? Will that make any coherence? No. So first, what will anybody do? Somebody will try to log in. So for login, what you have to do? You will have to enter your username and password. So where should your document start? It should start from that. Enter your username, enter your password, click login. Have you forgotten your password? Click the forget password link and then reset your password and come back. Click login. And then once you click login, what happens? The home page appears. And there you will talk about logging off. So there is a logical flow of thought in the content that you are writing. Correct? Chronological. Perfect. That's right, Nitin. So that is how your content should flow. That is what we meant by coherent paragraph. One should be linked to the other. There should be a logical flow of thought. And illustrations you've seen are simple example of a cricket pitch. It was easy to represent it that time. When you were kids, most of you must have seen, we used to get wedding invitations. Thanks to COVID time, we don't get those invitations anymore. But we used to get wedding invitations. At the back of the invitation, do you remember a small map used to be given how to reach the destination? So that's illustration. They could have happily printed 10 sentences how to reach. At 500 meters, take a left, and then go 800 meters, take a right. They didn't use that. They just used a small map, small infographic where the location was explained. A picture is worth 1,000 words. This is exactly what I'm repeating it for the second time. Use as many illustrations as possible wherever necessary and applicable. Okay. So next bucket is ensure. Ensure you give specific information. You cannot write vague language. You cannot use vague language, vague thoughts. It not look like your money should be dispensed out of the ATM, but we're not sure. How do you feel if your ATM card is stuck in the machine and this is the error message that the banking application is trying to display? I would definitely be panicking there. So specific information without beating around the bush. Consistency. Consistency, you can look at it from various angles. Consistency in terms of language, consistency in terms of formatting, in terms of structuring, what styles you use, what fonts you use, what color you use, what are the say for example, you are calling Gmail as an application in first paragraph, and then in the second paragraph you're calling it a module. In the third paragraph you're calling it an entity. That's not consistent. That is the point that we are trying to drive here is ensure consistency in the terminology, in the language, and in the way how things look and feel, basically the formatting of the document. Again, hold on to consistency. We'll cover it in the next slides. Then conciseness. As I said, your sentences, your content has to be crisp. It should be concise. You should get rid of a lot of flack. There are a lot of fillers while you speak. We have a lot of fillers. It comes off like, actually, generally, you take a pause. So there is no room for all these things in the content that you develop. You cannot use words like actually, generally, naturally, in order to. These are all words that are very good to speak. They don't add any value in your documentation. I keep telling my audience whenever this comes up, how we write our university exams. Just for the sake of competition, we take a lot of additionals to show your friends that you're writing something big. But actually, whatever you're writing could have been finished in one page. Correct? So that is what we are trying to drive. What we are trying to say is, do not increase the word count just to fill the page. Only write whatever is required. Next is very important. It's accuracy. Ensure the information that you're furnishing is factually correct. If you're saying, let us go back to Gmail example again. So you're saying click forget password link. And after clicking that, what ideally has to happen? Either a dialog box appears on the screen, or a link is shared to your registered email ID to reset your password, or a new window appears. Let's take these three options. You are really not sure either of these three things should happen. Is that what you're assuming? Correct? So, I'm sorry, guys. So how should your manual look like for this particular forgot password link? You say, hey user, either of these three things should happen. I'm really not sure. That doesn't work. Correct? So you have to say, click the forget password link. A dialog box appears. Enter your email ID in that. Click OK. A link is shared on your registered email address. So remember, whenever a user refers to your documentation in crisis time, let's say for example you bought a dishwasher at your place, and the installation guy comes and he says, ma'am, I'm only going to do the plumbing activity, the rest is your headache. He does the plumbing activity and he goes off, and then you open the manual that comes with your dishwasher, and everything is very vague in that. You might want to you might want to put the detergent of 5 ml, or you might want to do something else. I don't know if you can use this to steel. Does this work? It doesn't work. So ensure your information is factually correct. I'm trying to say, because the user refers to documentation at times of crisis. And remember, you are not there to guide the user vocally. There is absence of vocal inflection. Hence, documentation is the only tool that connects the user with the product, which is why it is extremely important to ensure the information that you furnish is absolutely accurate. The last bucket that you see, watch out for, which means you got to avoid. What is that you got to avoid? Abbreviations and acronyms. I'm mostly talking to the Gen Z crowd, right? So I know the kind of language that you are used to, your FB, Insta kind of language. I'm typically conservative, guys. Technical writing has been in my DNA for so long that I cannot really write without punctuation or writing full words. It really irritates me to the core if somebody uses short forms and communicates with me. Can't help, getting old, as I said. So when you're writing technical documentations, abbreviations and acronyms are, you have to use them very, very carefully. I'm not saying you don't use them. You use only what is allowed. Let's say, for example, ISRO. ISRO is an acronym, ISRO. You don't have to write Indian Space Research Organization every time. You call out ISRO at the beginning and then use the short form later on wherever it is applicable. So similarly with the abbreviations, a lot of things at times the product demands or the application demands, go ahead and use them. But you don't have to, somebody just said welcome is WLCM. Definitely, you don't use this kind of language in your error messages. Welcome user, 2 exclamations. You can't say WLCM USER. That doesn't work. That's not the way it is written. Next one is look out for jargons. I'll give you a very simple example when it comes to jargons. Let's take the example of ATM machine again. You inserted your ATM card. You heard the sound of currency getting counted, but then the money is not dispensed. And what is the error that you see? Error 404, error 440. SBI ATM always gives me error 440. No hard feelings, guys. I've had a very bad experience with SBI ATM. What do you mean by 440? Then again, I will have to look around the ATM, see where that error messages reference card is stuck, and then see, oh, the money is not available in the machine. Correct. So you don't use jargons. You communicate with the user in plain English. Unable to dispense the money at the moment. Very weird. On most of the travel sites, if you see IRCTC, the initial version of IRCTC, the error messages were very cluttered and very confusing. Things have improved by great deal, no denial. Things are still improving. So bottom line, no, it's a big no to jargons. And slang and non-English words. We are assuming that the documentation that you're doing is predominantly in English. So you don't use words such as ETC, ETAL, VIZ. All these are non-English words. Non-English words, there is no place for non-English words in English documentation. ETC, you replace it with and so on. ETAL also, you replace it with and so on. VIZ, you replace it with namely. So there are certain ground rules. I'll also tell you where to look out for these ground rules. So bottom line, no non-English words in English documentation. The last one, is biased language. This gender bias has taken precedence, I think, in the past decade or two, if you ask me. Chairman versus chairperson, manpower versus person days. So everything has changed. You don't call it woman power, manpower anymore. You call it person days or person effort. So fine, because why is this? I'll also tell you why is this. It is because you are catering to a global audience. You're not catering to a small sect or a small community. You're catering to a global audience with varied backgrounds, different thinking. You will have to ensure neutrality. You will have to ensure that it's not hurting anybody's sentiments, anybody's feeling at any cost in any way. So it might look very overwhelming to you. I'm saying so many things, but it is really not, given that you are very good at language. So picking up few things here and there, I think you can be polished very, very soon. Correct. So now these are the characteristics that we have seen. Now, I remember I was talking about consistency. I was also talking about certain rules, practices, do's and don'ts. So, okay, I think I missed this. So, in short, what are the key characteristics that you have to keep in mind? Use simple English, use unbiased language, always use active voice. Let your sentences be very concise. Let your language be consistent. Do not use jargons and always use positive way of putting out information. Right. So now let's move on to the consistency best practices, do's and don'ts. Where do you find them? You have something called as style guides. The content that you see on the slide, these are some of the style guides that are available for us in the industry. I'll tell you what a style guide is. It's nothing but a guide or a document that governs your writing. How do I explain? Yeah, okay. Let's take IBM for an example. IBM has a wide spectrum of products ranging from security, hardware, networking, computer networking, storage, security, analytics, you name it, they have it. They even have bots, they even have conversational system, IBM Watson. So there are a lot of things that IBM produces. So let's say IBM, if my memory is correct, IBM has around 3.5 lakh employees. So do you think with the 3.5 lakh employees strength, I might be wrong too, guys, so don't hold me responsible for this. With this X amount of people, do you think of that 1 lakh will be technical writers? No. Technical writing is one of the lean teams in an organization. One of the lean teams in an organization. Let's say when I was doing technical communication, we were 100 of us catering to 4 lakh people. So that's the niche skill that you will develop, as being a technical writer or a technical communicator. So when with these 100 people, so how do you think we can ensure IBM documentation, IBM branding has to remain the same, IBM language has to remain the same? They cannot afford to release one document in red color, one document in yellow color, and one in green. It just doesn't happen like that. There has to be some kind of a standard, some kind of consistency. So remember, there are regions, far east you cannot use certain words, west you cannot use certain words. So all these do's and don'ts, best practices, all these are put together in a compendium called a style guide. IBM has their own style guide. If you look at IBM, any product, any document you open, the way it is written is consistent. You look at Cisco documentation. Cisco has a lot of phones, you have a lot of servers, you have racks. You look at Cisco documentation, it's the same. Everything will be very, very consistent because they have their own style guide. So these are certain style guides that are available. You have Microsoft Manual of Style, the most popular one. And then there is TechPros Technical Writing Guidelines. TechPros is a company, actually. It's a body shopper that gives people to various organizations who are experts in either ID or content writing or documentation. So they have technical writing guidelines. Oxford Manual of Style, Chicago Manual of Style, they're quite old, but they were the initial ones, we can say. IBM has its own style guide. OpenSUSE, this is your Linux style guide. And then Handbook of Technical Writing is one of the again one of the famous ones written by one Gerald. So are these available for free download? No. My answer is a straight no. but you can check out MSTP. It's called Microsoft Style Guide for Technical Publications or Microsoft Manual of Style. I am assuming that an outdated version of MSTP should be available for free download in a PDF format. So you can see what is the level of information that is given in a style guide. Let's look at that for a minute or two. You have, guys, I'm getting my echo. I want everyone to be on mute again. Yeah, thank you. So how a date should be written, how a heading, a name should be written, or you just again open the Gmail. I'm sticking to one example because it will be easy for you to go back and forth with the visual. Open the Gmail. So how do you address that field where you enter the information? Is it a text box? Is it an option button? Is it a checkbox? How should a button be called? So minute things, the cross mark at the upper right of your screen. How do you address that in documentation? So all these, the minutest things that you take it for granted in your documentation are actually rules that are there in your style guide. So that's the level of detail. In fact, if you are using Microsoft Blue has a certain RGB coordinates. IBM Blue has certain RGB coordinates. So all these also, what colors you use, what are the RGB coordinates for that? This ensures consistency in look and feel, in language consistency at various levels. So that is what a style guide will do for you. Now, till now we have seen what is technical communication, what needs to be done to to be a good content writer, what are the things that you have to keep in mind. We have covered the what part. Now let's go to the how part. How are you going to write? What is the process that you typically follow? See, this is not something rocket science. I'm saying whatever we are seeing here is not rocket science. It is just that we are already doing it. I am trying to give a name to that. Whatever you are unmindfully doing it, I'm trying to help you put it in logical buckets, give a name, so that when you do it the next time, you understand that there is a process, and let's follow this to the T. Right. So writing process has 3 stages: pre-writing, writing, and post-writing. Now what happens in a pre-writing phase? You will answer the W4H: why, who, what, when, and how. So why am I writing? From a love letter to a user manual, take any piece, including your emails. This is typically the process that you follow. Why am I writing? To whom am I writing? What is that I need to write? By when should I deliver this? By when should I submit this? And how should I write it? The how part, we've seen all that simple language, conciseness, and all that. So this typically covers your pre-writing stage. Unless and until your W4H is cleared, my sincere recommendation, advice is do not start writing your content. You will not be able to achieve your purpose if your W4H is not cleared. It should be crystal clear as Pangyong Lake, the water in that lake. It should be as crystal clear as that. Otherwise, your document will never meet the objective that you wanted to start off with. Then comes your writing stage. Well, I'm not really dwelling into what are all these things. These are all the way you write your content. So either you write the entire document and look at it, or you write some portion of the document and look at it, or spiral development is when you write the key sections first and then plug in the lesser important sections later. So basically, writing stage is all about how you draft your content. The next is you do a review of your content. You self-review. You will read it. Go take a break, come back, read your content that you have written, do a spell check, see if all the punctuation is right. So you're trying to analyze all the errors. And then you repeat this. You repeat the same process. I hope my laser pointer is visible. So you repeat this process, drafting strategies, and you analyze. So that is your fine tune. And then you revise. So ultimately in the writing stage, it is all about you. How you write, how you edit, how you identify the errors, and how you are fixing the errors. This is all about you. And then comes post-writing stage. In the post-writing stage, you will send it out to somebody else. A peer review is done, or An SME review is done, subject matter expert. An SME review is done. Somebody verifies the document for technical accuracy. For some other, let's say you're trying to write an annual report for a company. So there are various people involved. So they'll come, they'll look at the figures, they'll see if the messaging is right, if the strategy is right, if the focus areas are right. So that's the SME review. SME review is not centered around language. It is only centered around the accuracy. Next comes the language review. So in a company, if you see, as technical writers, you will be doing this language review. Okay. And then, so from when somebody reviews it, they'll give you feedback. You incorporate that feedback, get a closure from them saying that, yes, you have incorporated all my feedback. I'm glad about it. And finally, you publish the content. If you look at it, even if you're writing an email or if you're writing your project, your final year projects or anything, you are actually following all these 3 stages. Again, as I said, this is not any rocket science. We are just trying to put it in logical buckets so that you remember it for good. So now this is about the process. Next comes a very interesting topic on the tools and technology. What is the role played by the tools and technology? I've listed some of the most rampantly used tools in the industry for technical communication. What I'm going to do here is not go about each tool, what each tool does. That's not what really I'm talking about. I'll try to give you 3 perspectives. Okay. There has been a paradigm shift in the way content is written, content is delivered, and content is perceived. Be it the advent of a lot of technologies, your machine learning, your artificial intelligence, or your big data. So there's I would say an explosion of technologies that has taken place. So your content also has to evolve to match up. I'll give you a quick example. Let's say you open your ICICI app or an HDFC app, or for the example, CaratLane, your jewelry app. You have a virtual assistant talking to you. Hi, how may I help you today? That is also written by a technical writer. So the way you connect with your audience is no longer a PDF, is no longer .chm. .chm is an online help file when you press F1. It is no longer traditional methodologies. There are lots of unique ways in which you connect with your users. So as technical writers, you will have to get a hang of all these things, which is during which tools and technology play a very key role. So this conversational systems, the advent of conversational systems has actually changed the face of content writing. How do you write, how do you deliver, and how the content is perceived. The second thing, also, let's again take IBM for example. I'll use very less number of examples so that it's very easy for you to connect. So let's say IBM has around 100 products. Hypothetical figure, 100 products. Now each product will have documentation. So for 100 products, you will not have 200 people working. Let's say 10 people are working for 100 products. So do you think will 10 people have enough bandwidth, enough time to write documents for these products from the scratch each time? My answer is no. Practically, that is not possible. So tools have come, say for example, XML author is there or FrameMaker is there. These help you to reuse the content that is already written, to version the content. So for example, I am a company, I have a server, I'm selling it to 5 companies, 5 other customers. So one customer is running on version 1.0, the other customer is running on version 10.0. I will have to give the documentation 1.0 to the customer 1 and 10.0 to the customer 5. So there is a versioning involved. I will have to maintain the legacy documentation. I will have to ensure that there is a content reuse. So all this is done. How do you extract the maximum with the minimum time that is available at hand? Tools play a key role in that. And also, if you see, there are a lot of open standards. I wouldn't say a lot, but couple of open standards that have come up in content writing. The most important one being DITA, DITA, Darwin Information Typing Architecture. DITA is an open standard that has changed the face of content writing in the industry. It's an overwhelming topic. I cannot really run you through that in this given time. So make a note of it and try to read about DITA as and when you get time. It's really, really overwhelming to know. So it uses XML, and with the use of technology, how will you ease your content writing process? So now, till now, what we have seen is use this, use that, these are the guidelines, these are the characteristics. Now the next level of technical writing or content writing is under an assumption that you know all that. I don't have to really get into all that. Now let me use technology to take my content to the next level. So DITA uses 5 tags, and in those 5 tags you fit the entire information. So the moment the information is fit into these tags, it is published. So for example, if say I am taking 2 days to produce a neatly formatted, correctly written, fully reviewed document, DITA will help you do that in half a day. So okay, so that is how accelerated your output is going to be with the use of tools and technology. So this is not the only list. This is just a sample list of tools that you're seeing on screen. The most widely used that I have come across in my experience till date: RoboHelp, Whatfix, XML Author, FrameMaker, structured and unstructured FrameMaker. Of course, it goes unsaid, Microsoft Office Suite. You use PowerPoint, Excel, Word to write your documents. Right. Okay. So with this, if you think I was able to fascinate you till this time, and if you are motivated, slightly motivated enough to pursue a career in technical writing, I'm sure I was at least to few of you. Let us see what the industry has for our support. Now, let's say you joined as a technical writer in an organization. What is your career path? This is the most important question, a crucial decision, a crucial thought that all of you will be having. I definitely, yes. When I was at the stage, the threshold of campus to corporate, or when I was shifting my line from drivers development to writing, I too had this thought in mind. So what is my career ahead? I can say 2 to 3 years, but what are the other options, the realm of possibilities that I have within or outside the organization if I'm a technical writer? To start with, you can go ahead in the same line. From a tech writer, you will become a senior writer, you will become a principal writer, and then you will become a documentation lead, and so on and so forth. That's one of the lines that you can follow. The second one, you can become a business analyst. Understand that a tech writer is very close to the user, very, very close to the user. So a tech writer has to really understand how the user perceives certain things and how the user reacts. So if this is the reaction, how should the documentation be? So there is a lot of user interaction, customer interaction that happens as a tech writer, that happens with you as a tech writer. So you'll be great in requirement gathering. So you can go ahead and become a business analyst. Of course, having done so much of handling customers, handling projects, you can go ahead into the project management line, or you become a documentation manager. As I said, there might be a separate documentation practice within the organization where you can go ahead and head that practice. So that is your documentation manager. A Scrum product owner. I'll come back to this in the agile mode of delivery. I'm sure you might really not understand the nitty-gritties of what agile mode of delivery is, given your background. But I understand, I'm assuming that you all know what is agile, how you deliver faster and in bits and pieces. To put it in layman's language, agile mode of delivery is nothing about, say for example, I'm trying to deliver an application. The entire application has to be delivered to my customer. I might give him the crucial screens first, and then in the next sprint, in the next phase, I might give him 3 more screens. In the next phase, I might give him 3 more phase screens. And then in the last phase, I might integrate all these 9 screens and give the entire application. So typically that is your agile mode of delivery. So you can become a product owner in that. A content strategist. You can get into testing. I'll tell you why you can get into testing. Just hold on and you can get into marketing. I know very with the personal experience, I'm telling you, people from your background, communication background, have actually gotten into technical writing, or they have also dealt with soft skills as faculties in soft skills, and now from technical writing they've moved to marketing. They're doing some exceptionally well in these roles. What I'm trying to drive is, you know the content, you know the language, you know the user, no one knows better than you. So the possibilities are huge. They are large in number if you really want to pursue. So marketing again is all about the content, the language, how fancy it should look, and how easy it should you should be able to communicate your power messaging with little words. How do you get the message across? And then learning and development. As I said, it could be about, you can become a soft skills faculty, you can become a communication faculty, or you can start creating content, learning content for the users, for the employees of the organization. So that is L&D role for you. And then corporate communication is a slightly different game altogether, because the communication is at a CXO level, chief CEO, COO, CXO level. So have you seen annual results or quarterly results of any company anytime live, or have you seen these CXOs come and talk on NDTV Business or NDTV Profit? The way they communicate is different, and their annual the annual reports, guys, there is no audio issue. If it must be at your end, not at our end. So please don't ping this, there's an audio issue. So the way the CXOs talk, the way the CXOs communicate with their shareholders through the mailers or through the letters, the communication is entirely different. At a higher level, to a different set of audience with a different language, verbiage to be used. So that's corporate communication. But again, as a technical writer, these are the options that you have. I'll sum it up with one thing. A developer will develop the project. A tester will test the project. But a technical writer is the person who will tell the end user to how to use the product. So which means you will have to be there right from the inception till the delivery. You are the single person who will go through the entire journey of the product. You will know in and out, and you not only know the technicalities of it, you are also trying to put it in layman's language, in simple language. So you will have the maximum privilege when it comes to the product. So which is why a lot of other roles, including technical roles, will be open for you in the management or on the documentation side, all the delivery side, or the COPCOM side, all the L&D side. A lot of roles will open up for you if you take this pretty seriously. Okay, so that is some bit of gyan from this slide, and let's see what the industry helps you with. There are a lot of forums that you can actually look out for. I would say the key one is this STC. We call it the Society for Technical Communication. One of the age-old entities or organizations that has been started exclusively to help people on understanding technical communication. Now, STC has a country chapter. So STC India, STC Canada, STC US, STC France. You have a lot of chapters. So each one has their own chapters. Now, what is there on STC? They have webinars, free webinars. They conduct workshops, and you even have job postings on STC. There are chat rooms where you can go talk to experts, and they have annual conferences where you can register and attend one of those conferences. You see within the last year what has been the trend in documentation field, in the TechCom field. So what are the companies looking out for? What should we do next? So the very future proof or forward looking discussions happen during those conferences. So STC, they have their newsletters. Subscribe to their newsletters if you're interested in this field. They're very, very They're very informative. In case you want to, SDPen, San Diego Professional Editors Network, it's called SDPen. SDPen is also on lines of STC, and you can join a lot of forums on LinkedIn where you can discuss with the experts, or you can see the discussions that happen when the experts talk. So these are only some I've listed. There are lots of other things, but STC, just have a look at it tonight, tomorrow, whenever you want, because I'm saying tonight, tomorrow, because this will be fresh in your mind only for very less time. Tomorrow, day after tomorrow, if I come and ask, oh, hey, what is the full form of STC, you will not be able to remember. But if you have connected yourself with this presentation and with this kind of a industry that you are looking at, technical writing as an industry, I would say look at these, seek professional help. They're there in the market. The last slide, some bit of good news, because this is going to be my ending slide. What are the certifications for technical writing that are available? Okay. So STC has this CPTC, Certified Professional Technical Communicator. That is a certification at 3 levels: foundation, practitioner, and expert. So this is one of the certifications that is given by STC. You can take it up if you want. And Symbiosis, I'm sure all of you know Symbiosis in Pune. Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning. It has got a PG diploma in technical writing, PGTW it's called. And lots of courses on Udemy and Coursera. You can pick them up too. Last but not the least, a lot of regional institutes, the local institutes at your place, they also give this technical writing course. So most of the characteristics that you have discussed will be discussed in detail in those, and also they will give you a hands-on on certain tools, technical writing tools. Could be, it differs from place to place, so I will really not comment on what tools you will be exposed to. That will be at the discretion of the institute that is hosting. Now the question is a certification mandatory to enter this particular field, this particular industry? My answer is, I would be very diplomatic. It would be a no. It's not that any company will put out saying, we are looking for a CPTC, Certified Technical Communicator, for entry level. No, they're not going to do that. Okay, the first barrier which you guys have already cleared is the language, the command on the language. You guys already have that. So with that, a certification is only a value add. It might not be mandatory, but it will definitely help you a long way. It will give you a cutting edge in, if say 10 people are applying, and if you have some sort of a certification, then it will give you a cutting edge. So it is going to be a value add. So with this, I technically come to the end of the session. This is what I had to present you guys on what TechCom is, technical communication is, what are the options that you have, what are the opportunities that you have at hand, what do you want to pursue. I am open for questions. Shuroma, if you can quickly run me through certain questions. I think I overshot already. Yeah. Oh, that's okay. Let me take few questions,
Sure.
Shuroma. Let us restrict the number of questions. So whatever the others are, as I discussed, for people who have missed the beginning of my session, in case we are not going to, we are not in a position to cover a lot of questions now. Let us, I'll consolidate everything in an FAQ document and share it with you in a day or two. So do not worry about that.
Okay. Thank you so much for such an informative talk, and we have learned a lot about an interesting career prospect. We have learned a lot about the key aspects of technical communication. Now, the first question is, which we have is there any difference between technical writer and technical communicator?
I've covered this in my presentation. A technical writer, as I said, the IT industry looks at it as mostly synonymous, a technical communicator and a technical writer. A technical communicator is much more, where you also talk about your communication skills. You got to understand the illustrations, whereas writing is typically focused on content development. So there's a very thin line blurring. So you and you do not have two separate fields. You don't have a technical communication field, you don't have a writing field. At least from an IT perspective, I can talk. So very thin line. Do not consider it as two different categories.
Thank you. The next question is how instructional designing is different from experience designing.
I think we took this question that time also. As I said, user experience design is more concentrated around products. It is, let's say this mouse. So If I'm a UX designer, I will have to tell my team how a mouse should look. What are the key things that you have to keep in mind? What is the size? What are the clicks? How should this wheel be? Where should it be placed? So all these things the user experience designer keeps in mind. Whereas an instructional designer, let's take the 12 to 17 slider presentation that you have just seen. Instructional designer converts this in a very conversational tone, a story. He will storyboard it, he or she will storyboard it and then deliver it in a different manner. So instructional design is more about learning content, and user experience is totally product based, product focused.
Okay, the next question is difference between IBM and Mac in style guide.
See, we cannot really get into each company's style guide. Everyone will have their own way, how the company wants to have their branding, how the company wants to have their language. Well, English wise, it might be the same, but the way things are branded, the colors usage, the language, it will differ from company to company. So unless and until we have seen IBM style guide and Mac style guide, I will not be able to comment it. But bottom line, to answer this question in a digital way, it is up to the company how they want to brand their products. Okay, Shuroma, next. I hope that answers your question. By the way, I haven't seen a Mac style guide, so I really don't know what is in a Mac style guide. I know about IBM style guide though.
Thank you for the answer. The next question is how to learn, and if does this field of technical communication require a degree and knowledge in any specialized field?
Oh, okay. You mean the domain knowledge. So domain knowledge is an added advantage. You will definitely, yeah, that is exactly, I think I'm understanding. So for example, if you will not have technical writers in semiconductor technology, you will not have technical writers in VLSI. So that's not possible. So you know technical writing. So that's the basic. First, you know the language. Two, you know how to write content, write effective content. And three, domain knowledge is something which you pick up on the job. And when you enter large organizations, you will have SMEs helping you with the domain. They don't expect you to be technically sound. They don't expect you to be technically competent as them, along with having technical writing skills. So it is, you will learn it on the job. Like tools, you will learn it on the job. You don't have to really worry about domain experience. Little bit know-how of what the domain is, what is happening, what is not, is a good to have knowledge.
Okay. And the last question, what are the courses available to be a technical communicator?
Courses I've just put up in my I've put up in my previous slide. Yeah, so these are the certifications. Just look out Udemy or Coursera. You will have a lot of courses, so you will understand. Otherwise, there is nothing particular standardized. Nothing is there that really comes through my mind. Watch out these two learning platforms, online learning platforms, digital learning platforms. I'm sure your question will be answered there.
Thank you for the answers. And our participants have a lot of questions, but we have been able to address only some of them due to paucity of time. And I hope the wonderful exposure we received today would definitely help our participants to understand how language can be used effectively for technical communication.
I'm also hopeful to see a lot of technical writers coming out from this gang, joining the industry. So wishing you all a very bright future ahead, guys and girls. Stay safe. So yeah, I'll over to you, Shuroma.
I'm sure many of them are interested to pursue this career.
I am sure
because many of them have written in the comment section that they are very interested, and it was a very fruitful session.
One last thing, sorry, I missed. Guys, in case you want to connect with me offline, I'm leaving my LinkedIn handle here. Please do connect with me over LinkedIn. Drop a note, drop an SMS, drop a message, LinkedIn message, and I'll respond to you. I'm not really that unprofessional. I'll definitely respond to you on LinkedIn. So yeah, I'm done. Thank you everyone. Thank you for this and for being a very patient and interactive audience.
No, it was a wonderful session. Thank you for being with us here today. And before we sign off, I would like to request the convener, Riddhi, to please give the vote of thanks. Over to you, Riddhi.
Yeah, am I audible?
Yes, Riddhi, you are.
All right. Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much, Soumya, for doing this with us. I mean, I know you're going to run to another meeting, so I'm not going to hold you back anymore. But thank you so much on behalf of the entire organizing committee. Thank you for such a wonderful presentation. Thank you so very much. We are also very grateful to our college authorities, the Vice Principal, Bursar, IQSC Coordinator, teachers, staff, and students of Ashutosh College who have supported our venture. All my love to my student volunteers, students from our department who have constantly worked for this. Thank you so very much, guys. And most importantly, a very big thank you to each and everyone in the audience because your active participation has really made this very successful. Thank you so very much.